I've done a lot of Pathfinder 2e teamwork builds on this channel. However, I thought, what can I do with Pathfinder 1e? So today, to celebrate my 100th video, I'm going to be building a Pathfinder 1e Oradin today. Want to hurt yourself to heal your allies? This is the build for you. And remember, if you like my videos, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to be notified of other videos. Let's dive in. So what is an Oradin? Well, for those of you that don't know, it's exactly what it sounds like. Part Paladin, but mostly Oracle. Think you can't out-heal damage in Pathfinder 1e? With this build, you can do it. For our ability scores, our most important is going to be Charisma, followed closely by Constitution, since we're going to be using our health to heal our allies. Followed by Dexterity, and then Wisdom. We don't really care about Intelligence or Strength in this build. We don't need many skills, and nothing goes off of Intelligence in this build. And we are almost never going to be attacking in this build, so we don't care about Strength at all. For this build, we're starting with 2 levels of Vanilla Paladin. All we really care about for Paladin in this build is Divine Grace. Getting our best stats to all of our saving throws is really good. So we definitely want that. Then we're going to take 18 levels of Payzin Practitioner Oracle. This will give us Master Herbalist. We gain a competence bonus equal to half our Oracle level, minimum of 1, to our Profession Herbalist checks. We can also use our Charisma modifier rather than our Wisdom modifier on those checks. We also gain a kind of pseudo lay on hands. We can use this pseudo lay on hands a number of times equal to 1 plus our charisma. And other than going off our Oracle level instead of our Paladin level, this ability works identically to lay on hands and counts as lay on hands for the purposes of abilities, effects, feats, that sort of thing. And at 7th we can use Profession Herbalist to remove bad conditions. But if we fail by 5 or more, then the target becomes sickened. And if we fail by 10 or more, the target becomes nauseated. Our first trait is going to be Magical Knack choosing Oracle. We may want to take 2 levels of Paladin, but that doesn't mean our caster level has to fall off. With this trait, we gain a +2 to caster level, as long as this doesn't raise our caster level above our hit dice. So we'll get our full caster level as if we were a full Oracle, even though we took 2 levels of Paladin. Then our second trait needs to be Inured to Death. We are most definitely the healer in the party, so we don't want to get hit by death effects. So this trait will give us a +2 trait bonus on saves against death effects, which will stack with the first feat we're taking, which I'll get to in a second. The race for this build is going to be a half-orc. I seriously considered going full orc for this build, but since we don't care about strength at all, and the -2 to charisma is going to hurt us, half-orc is the way to go, I think. We are still going to get the ferocity ability, we're just going to have to take a feat for it, which is fine. Half-orc will give us a +2 to any stat we want, which will probably be charisma or constitution, depending on what's more important. Either more pseudo lay on hands, or more HP. Our oracle mystery for this build is going to be life. We're the healer in the party, so life is an excellent one to pick up. We'll get to the revelations right after we talk about our oracle curse. The Oracle curse we want to pick up is Reclusive. Whenever we're in combat, our allies must succeed on a melee touch attack to affect us with touch spells. Also, we have to attempt a saving throw to resist all spells cast by anyone but us, even those that are cast by our allies. So basically, we're a superstition barbarian. But instantaneous spells we cast only on ourselves are treated as though we were 1 caster level higher. When we reach 5th level, any spells we cast on ourselves are treated as though they were modified by the Extend spell feat. This does not increase their level or their casting time. At 10th, we become immune to charm spells and spell-like abilities. And at 15th, we get spell resistance. We're the healer/buffer. If we really need something like Bear's Endurance or something like that, we can cast it on ourselves. In fact, once we hit 5th level, it's better if we do because we get that extend spell for free. The downside of this curse really doesn't affect us because we have plenty of ways to heal ourselves and our allies, and we really don't need a bunch of buffs. We want to have buff spells so we can buff our allies, but we're not going to need them on ourselves. Most of the time, anyway. For our revelations, we're going to start with our bread and butter, lifelink. As a standard action, we can create a bond between ourselves and another creature. At the start of our turn each round, if the targeted creature is wounded for 5 or more points below maximum health, it heals for 5 points of damage and we take 5 points of damage. We get a bond for every oracle level we have, and the bond lasts until the bonded creature dies, you die, or the distance between you exceeds medium range. We can also end it as an immediate action. So basically, as long as we want it to. Seriously, put this on everybody before an adventure, and boom, it lasts for that entire adventure. Then we want to pick up the channel revelation. This will allow us to channel energy like a cleric using our oracle level as our effective cleric level. We get this 1 plus our charisma modifier times per day. So our turn is basically going to go like this. All our allies that we have lifelinked are going to heal for 5. We're going to take 5 damage for each. Then we're going to swift action lay on hands. And then we're going to full round action channel if we need to. Otherwise, we'll probably move and do a buff or debuff spell. And our last revelation for this build is going to be Energy Body. A standard action, we can transform our body into pure life energy. Doing this increases the light level within 10 feet by 1 step up to normal light. Also, any undead that strikes us with handheld weapons or unarmed strikes takes 1d6 damage plus 1 for every oracle level we have. So when we get this, 1d6 plus 15. And of course, if they have reach weapons, then they don't take the damage. If we decide to grapple an undead creature, they take this damage instead of the normal damage. Once per round, if you pass through an ally's square, or they pass through yours, it heals for the same amount of damage that you would deal to undead. We can use this ability to heal ourselves as a move action. You choose whether or not to heal a creature when it moves through your space. We can reign this form for a number of rounds equal to our oracle level. This revelation is mainly for our action economy. If our allies want a little bit of ship healing, they can move through our space instead of us having to move up to them to heal them. This is fantastic for any ranged attackers. Anyway, that's it for the revelations we're going to get. Now we can move on to the feats. Alright, our first feat for this build is one that you probably saw coming if you played in Oradin before. That's right, we'll be taking Fey Foundling. So whenever we receive magical healing, like say when we use our lay on hands, we get an additional 2 points back for every dice we roll. We also get a +2 bonus on saving throws against death effects. But we also take 1 additional damage from any cold iron weapons we get hit with. But I feel like that part's not going to come up very often, unless our GM just really wants to come after us. I know it's weird for a teamwork build, but we're going to be healing ourselves a lot more than we're healing our allies. Because we're going to be healing our allies just by staying up. So we want to stay up as long as we possibly can. Alright, we have to take Fey Foundling at level 1. But these feats that are after that, you can take in any order you want, assuming you meet the prerequisites. This is simply the order that I would take them in. Anyway, next feat is Toughness. We're taking this at level 3, so we get 3 hit points, and every time we level up, we get 1 more hit point. It might not seem like much, but since we're using our hit points to heal our friends, we need as much hit points as we can get. That's also why Con is our second most important stat. I personally think Charisma is more important, but you could definitely argue that Con is more important too. Moving on, for half-orc value, I would take Ferocious Resolve. This will give us the Ferocity ability, which full orcs get. So we can keep fighting while at negative hit points as many times as we want per day. With this build, we're probably going to go down to negative hit points quite a lot. So when we do go down to negative hit points, we want to be able to stay up, lay on hands ourselves, and then do whatever we need to do after that. Plus, when we use this feat, we get a +2 on our intimidation checks. Since our charisma is so high, we're going to be able to pretty easily demoralize some enemies. And since Shaken is Frightened 2 for 1E, that is very, very good. This is simply for those rounds when we don't really need to channel. And this will stack with our intimidating racial traits. So, very, very good. Next up is Improved Initiative. This will give us a +4 on initiative checks. We want to go first in this build so we can get off all our buffs that we need. So that +4 is definitely going to help. Next, for more half-orc value, we'll take Resilient Brute. Once per day, if an enemy confirms a crit against us, we can treat half the damage as non-lethal. We can do this 3 times per day once our base attack bonus hits 10, which will be about level 13. Like I said before, we're going to go down to negative hit points quite a lot. So if we're low on health and we get crits, we stand a much better chance of surviving with this feat than not. There's still a chance that we could get critted and killed, but we stand a much better shot at surviving with this feat. Contingent Spell is kind of important for this build. We can only use this meta magic feat on Cure Spells, Breath of Life, or any harmless spell that can be used to remove ability score damage, ability score drain, or any negative condition that is imposed on the target. When we use this feat, we must choose a specific trigger for the spell in question. When this trigger occurs, the spell is activated. For example, you could set it to when the target dies, Breath of Life is activated. The spell does take up a spell slot 2 levels higher than normal, but the spell can remain dormant for up to 10 minutes per caster level you have. Of course, we only get 1 contingent spell per target at a time, but still definitely a good feat. Okay, now that we've reached level 13, we can finally start taking our channel feats. So the first one we're going to pick up is Selective Channeling. So we get to pick a number of creatures equal to our Charisma modifier. Those creatures are unaffected by our channel energy. We only want to heal our friends with our channel energy, not our enemies. And since most enemies you're going to run into are living creatures, we definitely want to take this. Plus our Charisma modifier is going to be really high. So even if we run into a bunch of different enemies, we're probably good. Next up is Quick Channel. This feat will allow us to channel energy as a move action by spending 2 uses of that ability. So if we really need to buff somebody or intimidate somebody or something like that as our standard action, we can spend 2 uses of channel energy to do it as a move action instead of a full round action. We can probably channel a lot. So using 2 daily uses of channel to do it as a move action really isn't that bad. Plus, Quick Channel is a prerequisite for the next feat on this list, which is very important, Reactive Healing. So when an attack or effect will reduce us down to 0 or fewer hit points, we can expend a use of channel energy or lay on hands as an immediate action to heal ourselves. Of course, the healing only affects ourselves even if it would normally affect others. This is mainly so that we can use our swift action for other things, if we need to. And if our Frosty doesn't work for some reason. I don't know why it wouldn't, but this is kind of our last-ditch effort. And finally, we'll take Fateful Channel. This will lock us into worshipping Pharasma, but every time we use channel energy, we grant every creature we heal the ability to roll twice and take the better result on an attack roll, skill check, or saving throw within a number of rounds equal to our Charisma modifier. If we use this ability more than once, it doesn't stack, but it does reset the duration. Each creature can only benefit from 1 instance of this effect at a time. Believe it or not, Paladin doesn't actually lock us into any particular deity. We can worship Pharasma, even though we're part Paladin. In 1E, it's only Cleric that locks us into a particular deity. For spells, we want to pick up as many buff spells as we can to help our allies, and possibly some debuff spells so that we can debuff our enemies. But there are a couple of spells that we're definitely going to need for this build. The first is Stunning Barrier. We can only cast this on ourselves, but it gives us a +1 bonus on AC and saving throws. Also, whenever someone melee attacks us, they have to make a will save. If they fail, they are stunned for 1 round. But then the spell ends. Even though the spell can only be used on us, it's still a great teamwork option, because stun will help the barbarian grab him, and that rogue will get that nice sneak attack. Plus the spell will give our enemies an incentive not to attack us. Definitely pick this one up for this build. Then we'll want to take the spell that makes all of this really work, Shield Other. We cast this on someone, and they get a +1 bonus to their AC and saving throws. Also, the subject of this spell only takes half damage from anything that does hit point damage. we take the damage that the subject does not take. Anything that does not do hit point damage is unaffected by this spell. Also, if the subject loses hit points due to a lowered constitution score, that damage is not divided because it is not hit point damage. And when the spell ends, the damage doesn't get reassigned. This spell combined with lifelink means that our allies aren't going to take much at all from anything, basically. And we can still completely heal ourselves with channel and our pseudo lay on hands. And of course, we also want to take some cure spells so we can top people off when we need to. Alright, now we need to talk about key magic items, of which there are a ton. So let's get into it. First, we need our charisma score to be high, so we'll want to take Headband of Alluring Charisma. Next, we'll want to pick up a Reach Meta Magic Rod, so we can buff our allies without having to grab them. Next, for our bracers, we're going to want Bracers of the Merciful Knight. We're treated as 4 levels higher for the purposes of our lay on hands and our pseudo lay on hands. Because remember, Healer's Way counts as lay on hands for the purposes of effects. Plus we get it once per day, Lesser Restoration. Pretty good. Then we'll want to pick up Incense of Meditation. When a divine spellcaster, like say an oracle, lights the incense, and then prays and meditates near it for 8 hours, he can prepare all of his spells as though they were affected by the maximized spell feats. But these spells take up their normal spell level instead of 3 levels higher, as is normal with the feats. So, maximize Cure Serious on ourselves, yay. The Corset of Delicate Moves will allow us to have 2 swift actions around instead of just 1. So we can double lay on hands ourselves if we need it. Next up, we're going to need a meditation crystal. If we spend 1 minute activating the crystal by meditating on it and taking no other actions, we gain 1 use of lay on hands. Once activated, the crystal retains its energy until we use it or 24 hours pass. For only 2,000 gold, this is actually pretty broken, because we can use this as much as we want as long as we have a minute to meditate on the crystal. Of course, we do only get 1 extra use per combat, but this is still a fantastic item for this build. But if you think that's broken, wait till I talk about Boots of the Earth. For only 5,000 gold. As a move action, we can plant our feet and draw strength from the earth, gaining fast healing 1 and +4 to a bunch of stuff. So mainly just sit, Oradin, sit, and we heal back up to full. In this build, that is just dumb. And then for the last item for this build, we have the much more expensive and much less broken Ring of Regeneration. This won't completely invalidate your job, but it will make it much easier. So when it comes to combat for this build, you need to do a few things. First, you need to make sure that everybody who matters is lifelink to you. You also need to make sure that everybody who matters is shielded other. Then just sit back and watch. Put healing where it needs to go. Channel when you need to. Otherwise, maybe do some other buff spells or debuff spells. Overall, just watch the combat and do what you need to do. That's the main thing. So, that was my first attempt at a Pathfinder 1e teamwork build. What do you guys think? Could I have done better? Let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know what kind of other teamwork builds for Pathfinder 1e you want me to do. And don't forget, patronage at any tier gets you access to some Google Sheets with this build and some other Pathfinder 2e builds I've done. I just started doing the Google Sheets, so there's not much yet. Remember, teamwork is vital, and I'll see you guys next time.